Welcome to the Channel M Football Debate Show. Now, unless you've been on the moon, you'll know that this is going to be a very, very big week for Manchester football. So we're going to talk Manchester football. How about this for an illustrious panel? Andrew Hinchcliffe, formerly of Manchester City in England, now a broadcaster of some repute. And joining him in the blue corner, the Manchester City reporter at BBC Radio Manchester and now an author, Ian Cheeseman. On the red half, this esteemed gentleman, a fantastic servant for Manchester United, played in 4 FA Cup finals and won 3 of them, also played for Scotland, Arthur Albiston, and the Manchester United reporter at BBC Radio Manchester, Steve Wyeth. You're all very, very welcome. Right, we'll look ahead to Wednesday, but let's start, Arthur, in terms of the preparation. I don't think Fergie would have wanted to lose at home to a third division side as a build-up to this game, would he?
Certainly not. I wouldn't want to lose at home to any division team, but certainly a poor result against Leeds. We've got to go out now on Wednesday and show supporters that were hurt by that and get a result in a big, big game. So, Steve, do you think that will influence his team selection?
I hope it does. I hope it spurs him on to think... I know they can't get knocked out on Wednesday night, but the last thing that a single Manchester United supporter would want was to see United lose in 2 cup competitions in 4 days against 2 of their traditional rivals. I think it's got to change the mentality a little bit.
Now, Andy, from a City perspective, of course, things have gone rather well because they've had 3 clean sheets under Mancini, through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. So you'd imagine that they're going into this thinking they're in a good shout for Wembley, don't you think?
Absolutely. They are playing very, very well. Mancini's certainly got them organised. He's taken on Mark Hughes' squad. He's done some tinkering there. He's moved Vincent Kompany into defence, so they're defending very well. They're keeping clean sheets and scoring lots of goals. They're at home, and as Steve was saying there, it's very important that City have a good first leg and take something to Old Trafford that they can actually defend. But they are playing well. City will be the favourites. I'm just very interested to see what kind of team Sir Alex picks on Wednesday night.
Now, Ian, you watch City home and away. You haven't missed a game since 1947 or whatever it is now. What has Mancini brought to the table in terms of organisation that you can put your finger on that has suddenly produced the clean sheets?
Well, you can see the 2 centre-halves playing closer together. You can see them sliding across as a unit. In fact, on the touchline, you often see him now making that movement with his hands. Brian Kidd's alongside him doing the same sort of thing. So they're a lot better organised. I mean, they've not had an ideal defence in recent weeks because of injuries, etc. Lescott, Touré away on international duty. So he's had to make do a little bit. Obviously, Dedrick Boyata made his debut up at Middlesbrough.
And did OK?
And he did very well, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play in the first leg. Big guy and looked confident. Watched him come through the youth team, etc. But it's basically just a case of keeping that unit together as they come across and making sure that all the midfield don't go forward at one time and that somebody is dedicated enough to stay back, which you'd think would be De Jong, but it's not quite as simple as that. You need, the group to realise who's going and when to stay, and they seem to be doing that a lot better now.
Now, Steve, let's talk a little bit about priorities, because Alex Ferguson never made any secret that his ultimate priority was Premier League, Champions League. Behind that was the FA Cup, and the distant 4th was the Carling Cup. That priority has now shifted, would you say, with that early exit in the FA Cup?
No, I think in the cold light of day, they'll have thought about it and realised that the priorities haven't changed at all. Still to be champions of England and hopefully champions of Europe again must be put above anything else. The only thing that might have changed Alex Ferguson's mentality towards this game is to either be saying to some of the players, the senior players who didn't perform against Leeds, you let me down, prove me that you can do it, or that some of those younger players, as we saw maybe when they got knocked out of the League Cup a couple of seasons ago against Coventry, some of the younger players let him down on that occasion and had to wait for another opportunity for some time. So his mentality may be that way, and that he'll see this as an important game in getting the team back to winning ways, regardless of who they're playing.
Well, I accept, Arthur, that in terms of your overall strategy, it isn't going to change because you've gone out at a slightly earlier stage in the FA Cup. But the City factor is a factor. United fans won't want to lose a semi-final to City, will they?
Not at all. We're the current holders of the competition. We've got 2 big games coming up against City. The first one on Wednesday. We've got to go over there and get a positive result, especially on the back of the poor result we had against Leeds. So He'll be looking for a reaction. He usually gets it, and I'm sure it won't be any different on Wednesday. He'll get a reaction, and the atmosphere and the occasion, hopefully, I'll get some of our younger lads, if you like, if some of them are still in the team, I'll help them get through the game, and I think there'll be a sprinkling of experienced players in there as well.
Now, Ian, it's slightly different from a City perspective, of course, because it's been a long time since City were in the record book, so Mark Hughes made no secret of the fact that he was going hell for leather for this competition. How important do you see it in the scheme of things for City to get their hands on that first trophy?
Well, it was interesting because Mancini did a press conference earlier today and he was asked about that banner in the Stretfen, which of course those two know only too well about. And
these two?
Will it be taken down if, how do you get that to be taken down? Will it be taken down if City were to win this tie and go on and win the League Cup? And he said, in his pidgin Italian, English through Italian, yes, I want to go and take that banner down. And I think that there's a little bit of that psychology in the United camp as well, in as much as they want to keep that banner up there. So, as much as people might want to play it down in terms of the importance to United, I think it is very important. And I think Fergie, by his reaction after the game against Leeds, was a little bit rattled and indicated that. And I think to lose again to Manchester City on Wednesday would be something he wouldn't be prepared to take. So I would imagine a very different attitude, albeit that the priorities might overall still remain the Premier League and the Champions League. I think the fact that this game comes immediately after the Leeds match makes a big difference now to United.
So, Andy, you've actually been there and done it. You've won an FA Cup at Wembley.
Yes.
So it's been a long time for City and their supporters.
Yeah.
So when you look at that situation, how big a stepping stone could you see it being in terms of City's eventual aspirations, even if it is perceived as the fourth tournament?
It's bound to be important. It's winning silverware. That's the important thing. People have talked about Mancini being told they need to finish in the top four, get into the Champions League. That is vital because City want to progress very quickly. But City fans, if you probably ask them, would you want to win the Carling Cup, get your hands on some silverware, or finish in the top four, they probably would take winning something, winning a competition. It's been so long since we've done that, and it gets into the players' minds that they are capable of winning something, albeit the Carling Cup. You move on from there. They've got the FA Cup to look forward to as well, a decent draw in the fourth round. You never know where that can lead this season as well, and January's here, new players possibly coming in. Anything is possible because the money is behind it. If Mancini's allowed to buy the players he wants, then anything is possible this season. There's 5 months left, and things could go really well. But I would be really, really pleased as a City fan to see us get to Wembley and win the Carling Cup. Simple as that.
Arthur, can I ask you a question? Because Mancini replacing Mark Hughes shocked some people, delighted others. The thing that intrigued me, though, was the appointment of Brian Kidd, who obviously you know. Did you see that as a Mancini appointment? Because the general consensus was maybe that was something that was given to Mancini rather than asked for.
Well, I think Brian came back in the summertime. I think he had the chance to stay at Portsmouth, but he opted out of that. And I think he came back to City working with the academy sides, and they've just sort of moved them up the ladder from there. And it makes a lot of sense, really, because Brian has got a wealth of coaching experience at various clubs. And I think Mancini's come over here, albeit he did have a spell at, I think, Leicester City.
He did, yeah.
So he knows English football, and he's been watching quite a bit of it, saying he lived in London for a bit. But certainly, you need somebody behind him with a bit of experience, and I think Brian Kidd's a sort of ideal appointment for him to help him along.
So you rate him, then?
Well, very much so. Brian was instrumental in the United side winning things, and very instrumental in getting players to the club like your Scholes, Nicky Butts, the Nevilles, and he was involved with the young lads then, and then obviously promoted to the first team and saw them come right through. And you ask any of the lads, they've got a healthy respect for Brian, and Brian's got a healthy respect throughout the game. He's worked with England as well, so he's got a wealth of experience, and it's been a good appointment, I think.
Steve, we had a question directed your way, and if you could just deal with this in the short time left available for us in this section, that somebody suggested in an email that we received that maybe for the first time in a long time, Fergie looked a little bit rattled post-match in his press conference. You go to them all, was he?
I think sometimes Alex Ferguson allows his emotions to be shown after games, and sometimes he doesn't, and he was obviously annoyed, but very often his behaviour after matches is to try and deflect things away from his players. I think he spends long enough in the dressing room after a game to compose himself before he comes out and stands, if he chooses to do so, in front of the TV cameras.
Well, he's been there and done it, but apparently he was quite curt about the situation with Vidic's surprise departure.
That's the one interesting factor that did come out of the game. Why did Nemanja Vidic not start? He was on the team sheet, he came out to warm up, and apparently, from what we understand, it was his decision that he wasn't fit enough to play. So, that will be the one thing that maybe has annoyed Alex Ferguson about what happened against Leeds, on top of a bad performance from the 11 players that did start the match.
Steve Wyeth, Arthur Albiston, Ian Cheeseman, Andy Hinchcliffe. A very elect panel. We'll be back to talk football in 2.